Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Aaron with HEX Life and Style. So, in episode 15, I interview my buddy Kevin Newman of Junk Palace Vintage. Now, we went on location for this one. We went to Mirror Twin Brewing to film it. We drank for about 2 to 3 hours before we started shooting the podcast. So, I'm going to warn you, this podcast goes a little off the rails. However, Kevin is a great guy. He is extremely hilarious and very knowledgeable at what he does. So grab your drinks, sit back, and enjoy episode number 15 with my buddy Kevin of Junk Palace Vintage. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm with Kevin of Junk Palace Vintage. Super pumped about this. It's been a long time coming. I've been asking this guy for a while. I'm like, do the podcast, and he hesitated a little bit, but he's awesome. He's right next to the handicap sign, which is phenomenal because he is definitely old school, and I love it. He's like me. He makes me look young, so you're the oldest guy in the game.
Because he is.
He's the oldest guy in the game. But I'm so excited about this. Kevin, dude, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for doing this.
It's good to see you, Aaron.
We got here at 5, just so you know, and it is what? 8. It is 8. And we have sat here and we've talked about anything and everything you could imagine. And that's what I love about it. But we have a lot more to talk about. We'll probably rehash some things that we've already talked about. But I want to start with, Kevin, how did you get started in reselling and in vintage and just the whole scene? Talk a little bit about that. Talk about the history of it, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Wow. That's a big question, Bob. Okay, so I grew up in these apartments. I lived with my mom and my grandmother, and we had like a little storage unit down under the apartment buildings. And I went down there one day and I started digging through it, and I found this little box. It came from a great grandfather that was in World War I. Had a little William Harding campaign button and all that stuff. I don't know, that button just kind of triggered me. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old. I got into campaign buttons.
Okay, cool.
So I started collecting these things, and at my school, like once a month, they would have these coin shows. I kind of collected coins a little bit, but I noticed all these guys had all this other stuff. Buttons and things on the side, so I started getting into that. What was the question again?
What got you into vintage? Buttons got you into vintage.
Okay, so
political buttons.
Yeah, but long story short, I collected a lot of junk, and then I went to college. The punk scene started really coming on. Blondie and Sex Pistols and Ramones and all that stuff was like, kind of had like a 50s fashion thing, kind of an anti.
So relate that to what the younger people would maybe understand. So maybe like your Nirvana, those, hey, just so everybody knows, those punk, that would be considered your Nirvana, your Red Hot Chili Peppers.
It was kind of your anti-establishment. So we would go to thrift stores and we would buy all this cool shit, like for $1 or $2. And we'd come home and we're wearing zoot suits, and we were Stray Cats, we were Blondie, we were Sex Pistols, we were Elvis Costello, we were all that shit.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. Like little skinny sunglasses, all that stuff for like little or no money. And it was fun.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, I got into a job where I was hiring bands and entertainment for the college. It was part of my job, and I got elected to do that. And the bands started coming to my dorm room before the show, and they buy this stuff from me.
That's awesome.
Sunglasses, jackets, just
for the style.
all that.
The fashion
all that stuff. it was exploding. It was kind of a punk new wave. We weren't totally punk because honestly, Sex Pistols were unlistenable.
Yeah.
But the new wave, all that stuff was cool. Ramones, it was fun. And so I realized there was some money in it, and I don't know, what's that, 45, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah, so you started turning that stuff, selling it to the actual bands themselves.
Right.
And kind of moving some of the new style and the new fashion, which is really cool because, you know, you don't really think about that in 2020. You think about, okay, I'm selling this piece of vintage clothing or that piece of vintage clothing to that person for, you know, they're enjoying it. It's a college kid or whatever. But when you strip it back to like the actual bands and like the people who were following the bands, it was a fashion statement. Like they wanted to have the coolest stuff and make that fashion statement for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And we wanted to look as cool as those guys were, even though we were going to school in West Virginia. There was no internet, there was no TV. So a lot of times when I got home to New Jersey, where I'm from, was when I would like hear about this.
Yeah.
And then I would take it back
to West Virginia.
To West Virginia, and all the guys are from like Kansas and Pittsburgh and places that don't see what's going on.
So you grew up in New Jersey?
Yeah, we were betting on horse races that happened like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. So what was it like? How long did you live in New Jersey? When did you leave New Jersey?
My whole life. I ran away and went to college.
Okay.
My dad
in West Virginia.
My dad was a race car driver. I really wasn't a hard ass, so it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to work at a gas station maybe. I'm going to go to college and figure it out.
You're going to educate,
yeah.
Which you did. And is that what turned you on to entrepreneurship probably?
No. From the time I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I always had
We got the Harley guys behind us. We got some good choppers though. You can't.
I always had a lemonade stand, or we lived on the edge of a golf course, so I would like find golf balls and polish them and sell them on Saturday. I was a shoe shine boy for probably 4 years, 35 cents a shine. Everybody gave me $1, except Warren Kraft.
You still have a beef with Warren Kraft?
I do.
Yeah.
That's like,
what did he pay you, 50 cents?
Like 50 years later.
Yeah, I can get there with that. I mean, there's people that I can remember as a kid.
No, he gave me 35 cents. Everybody else gave me $1.
And he gave you 35 cents.
Yeah.
Probably the richest man.
The shine was 35 cents.
He was probably the richest man, though, right?
He was the manager.
I can attest to that. I mean, I can remember working on a farm and ripping out an entire fence row and walking home and looking at my dad saying, he paid me $20 and I worked all day ripping out a fence row. And my dad's like, well, you're going to go back tomorrow. He'll pay you more and more the more you go back and the better job you do. I never understood that until I went back. And then all of a sudden I started getting amazing. His wife would cook an amazing meal at lunch. And then all of a sudden he started paying more. And all of a sudden he started trusting me to do more. And he was paying more and more and more. So I guess that's part of the process. You know?
I did that for hay bales when I went through college.
Yeah.
I got 5 cents a bale plus a home cooked meal.
Yeah.
And the home cooked meal was way more worth.
It was, wasn't it? I mean, wouldn't you give your right arm for that today?
Heck yeah.
So, you know, anybody who doesn't know Kevin, Junk Palace Vintage, I mean, this guy's been in the game for a long, long time. And, I mean, very knowledgeable, very good at what he does. So let's get into that a little bit. So you're probably along the same lines as I am. How hard has it been for you to adjust to the new style of vintage?
Wow.
That's a big question.
It's a struggle. I mean, these kids, they're good. And a lot of them work hard. I mean, I try to follow on Instagram, and some of these kids are working like 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. and they're good at it. And most of them are working on the kind of streetwear thing, which they're teaching me a lot. I'm learning a lot from those kids. But they're starting to discover some pretty cool shit that I like.
Yeah.
And dang it. But the good thing is they're saving it. You know, I wouldn't have found that stuff to begin with because I'm not a bin guy. I'm not. But it's different.
It is. It's tough, and the best thing you could do, and what you have done, I think what I've done, is embrace that, try to understand it a little bit. But you said something to me earlier that really resonated with me. I mean, you really you invest in your passion. You invest in what you believe in, what you love, like what you like. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, because the younger generation right now is really looking to capitalize on trends and some things that may be popular, or the nostalgia aspect of it. But for you, I mean, let's talk about what is real, and I'm talking along the lines of 40s and 50s and 60s type stuff, which there wasn't a lot of it made. And so it's a little bit more sought after. They're starting to discover those type of things. But let's talk about how that relates with you and what you do and all of that.
Well, I mean, when I started, I was looking for 30s, 40s, 50s things. That was kind of, that was Stray Cats. That was Ramones. That was Elvis Costello. That was The Knack. They were wearing all these cool suits and little skinny ties and all that.
Yeah. The zoot suit stuff.
Yeah. What was the question?
I love you, man. I love you. No, so I'm just talking about.
So we've been here for 3 hours.
We have been.
This is my parking spot.
And right? This is what makes this awesome. Let me just tell you all, if you're not tuning in, if you haven't tuned into my podcast, or if you haven't tuned into the video podcast, this is one you need to tune into, because this guy, he is well weathered and he understands everything across the board. First and foremost, you have a love for what you do and a passion. But where I was going with, hold on, Kevin. Kevin likes to talk too. So hold on. So
more than him.
So the thing I would ask you is, like, from a relation standpoint, how do you adapt to the new age type of vintage from that standpoint? How do you relate to that? How do you adjust to that? Because it's really the trends and some of the things that are taking over right now. I mean, you've got people out there selling 2000s t-shirts, 2000, 2005 t-shirts for $100+, whereas I can't sell a 60 or 70 t-shirt that was made, that is very rare from that standpoint. I can't sell it for 80 or $30.
I follow the trends. I mean, I watch those kids. I love that those kids are coming on. I hate the competition, but I like what they're doing. It's definitely the more the merrier, and I definitely feel that way. And I just watch them. I mean, when the Tommy Hilfiger thing like blew up 5 years ago, I was throwing that shit in the trash, and everybody's moved on from it, but I'm learning a lot from those kids. I feel like the more the merrier, because we're not all doing exactly the same thing. I'm more like, if somebody asked me, I would say I'm an antique clothing dealer.
Yeah, 100%.
I hate to use the word vintage, because vintage could be 2016.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah, I mean, I'm learning from all those guys.
Well, I think that's the cool thing about it. I mean, you are unlike a lot of people because you open yourself up to learn. And I've talked to a lot of people on my podcast about this. I mean, part of what we do is understanding and learning the trends, understanding what is important from a fashion standpoint or a style standpoint. And it might not be that 50s or that 40s piece that you're passionate about. It might be that 2000s piece that you don't understand or that you don't even know what it is. And I struggle with that a little bit from that standpoint. But I think the ability as a reseller is to understand the trends and understand what for that fashion is and what's important to your customers. So tap into that a little bit.
Well,
So are you now hold on, because you're ready to jump on this. Are you a collector first or are you a reseller first?
I'm a reseller first. I don't collect anything. I did back in the day, but I'm 62. I'm trying to get rid of shit. So at the end of the day, I got to make $1.
Okay.
My passion can't be supported unless I make some money. So
Well, your wife's not gonna let that happen.
I'll buy anything. Yeah, my wife's got a good retirement. She's a great supporter of what I do. But this is dream come true to me at 62 years old. I get to do what I want to do. So what was the question again?
You're a classic, man. You're a classic. I'm asking you, what is how are you relating to the new age type of vintage versus what you do?
So I don't love that stuff,
This guy's great.
but I can find it. I mean, I like to go out and find it, and I like to flip it really quick. I don't have a store. I don't have a storage unit. I just got a little room in my garage. And
So let's tap into that a little bit. So you are buying a lot of this new age stuff, this 2000s, 90s stuff, and you're sending it to Music City Vintage, to the Banana, a lot of those places, and people probably don't even know what we're talking about. But you sell it to people, or you're taking it to people who can have shops, who can resell it,
right.
and you're turning you're making your profit off of it, and then you're moving on, right?
Correct.
But yet, do you hold on to the stuff that is important to you, that you like your 50 stuff, your 40 stuff, the stuff that
so
holds a little more value
I
to
do
you?
hold a little bit of that stuff back. Right now it's COVID, so we got no shows to go to. I like to set up a little bit of a show or an extravaganza, Wow, look at this whole table full of cool shit. I hold that stuff back a little bit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, snapback hats and
You get rid of it.
T-shirts, it just flies in.
We got a
and
pizza
flies
coming.
out. Hello.
Hi.
Say hi to
Thank you so much.
America.
Hi, America.
We're at Mirror Twin Brewing and Rolling Oven.
Yeah.
Rolling Oven Pizza is phenomenal. But we're at Mirror Twin Brewing right now. Little ad here. We'll throw out an ad. Rolling Oven Pizza is phenomenal. Don't spill it, Kevin. And we're at Mirror Twin Brewing, and it is phenomenal as well. The beer is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my. Let me know if y'all need anything else.
Yes, thank you. So let me ask you this, though, really quick.
Okay.
So what do you like? What is it you're passionate about? Like, what does that look like? Because I mean, you're a reseller first. You said you buy, you resell. What feeds you? Like, what's the passion behind it, Kevin?
It's a total sickness. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. I've been obsessed with it for 20, 30, 40 years. And I don't know. I don't know if I get off on buying it or if I get off on selling it.
Yeah.
It's just, the hunt is pretty cool. I mean, I like the hunt. And I've always been a guy that's kind of been a little bit off the grid and a little bit, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. So it was cool when I started. There wasn't a lot of people doing it. It was pretty obscure here in Kentucky. I mean, I could pick anywhere I wanted. There was nothing. There was no bins. There was no dudes. There was nobody looking for the stuff I was looking for. And sometimes I tell my wife, I picked everything there is. I picked it dry.
Yeah. So I would agree. I mean, I would agree with you. The hunt is by far what is exciting. I mean, finding what other people want. It's really not even the idea of selling it so much as it is like finding what other people would like to have. You mentioned the American Thunder tees earlier, and those are a dime a dozen. You can find those a lot of different places.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
until a month ago.
So they made a lot of those, and with the excitement of Travis Scott and Kanye West and a lot of those, A$AP Rocky and a lot of those rappers were wearing those T-shirts, and they just blew those up significantly. So they went from what would normally be like a $10 T-shirt to a $200 T-shirt really quick. And that was what made it cool, because I knew I could find those. I knew you could find those at yard sales and stuff for pennies on the dollar. Let me ask you this. So do you follow, this is important for a lot of the younger resellers out there. So take note of this. So this guy has been in it for a long time. We got people in the background wearing their masks. I like it. I like that they're wearing their masks. But one of the things I will say to Kevin is, so do you follow as a reseller? And a collector, because you are a collector. At the end of the day, you're a collector. Do you follow trends?
Absolutely.
Or do you follow what Kevin likes?
I follow trends, but I don't hunt the trends. I hunt what I like originally. I hunt 20s, 30s, 40s, vintage denim, sweatshirts, T-shirts. That's my thing. That's hard to find. I don't find too many of those. But, dude, I'm hunting all day long. So if I come across stuff that people like from the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, I'm going to buy it. I mean, I just now got into American Thunder like 2 weeks ago, so I'm probably late to that party, but I try to pay attention. I mean, I got a lot of young guys that I follow. There's way more people that I follow than follow me. And I don't care how many followers.
But it's okay. It's okay, though. I mean, you look at the American Thunder tees. I mean, were they popping in California 6 months ago? 100%. But when you start looking at them from a standpoint of, territory-wise, they're going to still be popular. They're still going to be popular in Ohio. They're still going to be popular in Kentucky. And the trend that was hit in California out on the West Coast and further up East Coast, it's still going to transform into the Midwest.
I sell mine for $60. Everybody else is selling them for $200.
Yeah.
You can go to Rucker John Instagram.
Don't give your
and buy all you want.
Don't give out your source. Hey, this guy's gotten drunk.
I don't mind giving out my source.
Hey, Kevin's gotten drunk and he's giving out his source for now. He's starting to give out a source.
I don't mind. That guy's the greatest.
So talk a little bit about so let's talk about growing up, man. I mean, you talked a lot about growing up as a kid, how you got into vintage and all that. Talk a little bit about now. I mean, how's it been being a reseller? You had a sales job for a long time. Talk about now that you're 100% kind of somewhat retired and the passion and all that. Talk about your son a little bit, if you don't care. I mean, your son's what, a big X Games BMXer?
He is. I'm very proud of him.
I would be too.
So the vintage thing, I've always been into kind of antiques and vintage and all that stuff. And I'm going to say 45 years in vintage. Just kind of always went with the antiques and stuff that I bought. What was the question again?
I love you, brother. So besides getting into like having growing up in that, how's it been? Like leaving your job, finding your passion with antiques.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And how's it tied in with your family? I mean, your son and all of that. I mean, because your son's pretty entrenched in the X Games. He's downplaying this. His son is a big BMX guy in the X Games, and he's pretty involved in what you do, right?
He is. He's. I've passed the torch, but yeah, it's kind of been a bone of contention with my wife and I. I mean, I'm pretty passionate about it.
But she's not, and that's understandable.
Oh no, I get it.
My wife loves me, and I love her, but it's hard for her to understand this type of lifestyle, this type of vintage, right? Am I right?
Yeah. Well, you there's nothing to understand. I mean, it's like heroin. It's like cocaine. It's like it's an addiction, and it's stronger than. I don't know what that stuff is like because I've never been there, but it's pretty strong. I mean, when I wake up in the morning,
yeah,
I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to go. And when I get home at night, I'm trying to like program all my conquests, like all the stuff I found that day.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't stop it. The good thing is I don't collect anything.
You're right.
So
You're right.
I buy it and I flip it, and everything is good with the world. My wife's retired. I'm retired. Don't wait till you're 62 to start doing this shit.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was wanting to hear. You're right, man. It is an addiction. It's 100% an addiction. And like anything else. And that's what makes it fun, I think, and that's what we feed off of. I have a question. Do you hit the Frankfurt Goodwill every day?
I hit the Frankfurt Goodwill about once every 4 months.
Really? I lied, dude. I told everybody you hit it every day.
I
told everybody, don't even go to the Frankfurt Goodwill. Kevin hits it every day.
That's my least favorite Goodwill of all of them. So.
Well, I figured you hit it every day. That's why nobody ever does anything.
It's an open book. I'm not a Goodwill guy that much. I like to find stores, and in my 35 years with Morton Buildings, I traveled probably 200 or 300 miles across Kentucky every day. And I'd find little places in town, like little stores, little stuff that would just, like, I'd keep an eye on. And, it might.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So, listen, young guys, I love you to death. Love you to death. So when I say this is with a huge heart right now. Something that's lost in what we do is knocking on the door and asking questions. So let's talk a little bit about that, Kevin, because you do this, and that's why you're so successful. Guys, in case you noticed, Junk Palace Vintage. Kevin, dude, this dude is look, he's got it down. He's been doing this for a long time. So listen to what he's saying. So let's talk about this. So you ask questions. You go into a situation where you might be working, you're doing your other job, you're building a building or you're selling something, but you ask questions.
Okay.
How much of what you do and how much of what you gain from a standpoint of being able to thrift and find stuff comes from you asking questions and starting a conversation?
Wow, that's a good question. Because I'm a pretty timid guy. So
Yeah, I noticed.
I don't ask a lot of questions. Well, I drink a little and I ask a lot. But that's a good question because I travel into all these towns like all over Kentucky, 300-400 miles from here. And I might have an appointment like that evening, but I'll leave my office at 9 o'clock in the morning and I'll get to that town at noon. So I'll just start traveling the back roads, seeing what I can find and just making friends there. And I tell them what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm looking for stuff in your attic. I'm looking for stuff in your basement. It was hard when I was in my 30s and 40s. But now that I'm in my 60s, the people are a little more trusting. Even though I'm the same guy I was.
What do you think that is?
Well, everybody trusts an old guy.
You think?
Oh, it's great hair for one thing.
Maybe they can relate a little bit. Maybe, yeah.
I mean, I'm probably going to be the same age as the people I'm hitting up. If you're a kid, you're like, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get that. I mean, they can relate and they want to talk to you and they want to, you're interested too. I mean, part of this is just being interested in what their story is, like what they want to talk about.
I've been around long enough that when I go to stores, I can tell them that I remember when their grandfather had this store or when their father had this store. And I remember I had my eye on this stuff.
Years ago.
Yeah.
See, that's the amazing part of it. I mean, you're years and years and years into this. So, like, I mean, you've gone into these places and you've looked up on the shelf and you're like, that's amazing. I want that, or I've seen that, or that's going to be worth like an insane amount of money at some point. I mean, you've looked at that and you've seen that, and then you go back and you revisit that with a lot of these people. And it might be grandkids, it might be kids, or whatever it may be. But be able to tell the story that I was here in 1981 and this was amazing to me, that's pretty cool.
And they usually relate to the story I told them about their grandfather or their father. And it's fun. I mean, by the way, on IRS, you get 54 cents a mile.
So
I'm not afraid to travel it.
Talk about that. What is so you travel a lot? Do you kind of make it like a journey? You make it fun for you and your wife, or what? What do you do?
My wife Debbie, she's retired as a director from Kentucky State, and she's been making face masks during the COVID. Here's mine.
Shout out. Looks amazing, by the way. I thought you tie-dyed that. It looks good.
She's cool. She likes doing that, and she wants to travel and do stuff more. But I'm like, I just got here, man. This has been my dream for 30, 40 years. I want to hunt vintage.
So is she cool with that? She's cool. She goes with you. She rolls with you.
No, she's not cool with it, but
But she listen.
I've been
she
able
has
to balance
fun.
both of that.
Yeah.
She likes paddle boarding, so I got a new paddle board. And we paddle board. And
So you'll thrift for a little bit. You go paddleboard for a little bit. I get that because Lindsay, my wife, is the same way, man, Kevin. She's like identical to that. She wants to do kind of her thing. She has her certain type of decor. So we'll enjoy that for a little bit, and then we'll go to my places for a little bit. Kind of try to adjust to it. So let me ask you, what do you have going on? Like, I know you sell a lot on eBay, right?
I do.
So what do you have? Do you do flea markets? We talked a little bit about this earlier. We can get more in depth, but
Yeah, I mean, the COVID's kind of put a bust on flea markets. My best flea markets have been Nashville, Springfield Antique Market, but my best money is just packing up my van and taking it to Nashville. In between Tommy at Black Shag Vintage, Nikki at High Class Hillbilly, and,
Nikki Lane.
yeah, and the guys at Music City Vintage, they clean me out every time. I mean, the scene in Nashville is so much better than it is here that I get retail down there.
What do you think that is? Do you have any idea?
Well, they're hip. I mean, we're not hip.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. I mean, they are. The Nashville scene is so crazy right now. I mean, you got all the musicians, you've got all the hipsters, you got everything coming. It's like a huge melting pot of what is popular and what's big for vintage and what is for what we do.
I mean,
So
people from California are shopping Nashville.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because, the things in California that they're looking at are insane.
Yeah.
And they can get it for 20%, 30% less in Nashville than they can in California.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. What do you think about, so you mentioned Nikki Lane earlier, so you know Nikki very well?
Not very well, but I know her a little bit.
Yeah. Good music, great
She's
music.
a good buyer. She likes really cool shit.
Oh, yeah.
So if you got any cool shit, you sell it to Nikki Lane.
What's that, High Class Hillbilly? At High Class Hillbilly?
Yes.
Yeah, so Nikki has a place in Nashville that is phenomenal. If you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. I know she's got Nick at Warren Company there. Some really, really amazing stuff. So let's talk a little bit. Let's go into a little bit more in depth. We talked about your public service announcement earlier. I want to hear it. What's your public service announcement? So his PSA, I know we've done this. What is it? What is it, Kevin? Let's hear it.
Dang, I forgot.
No, he didn't. He's not that old. He is not that old that he's going to forget. Because we just talked about it. What is it?
What did I say?
What?
I have no clue.
This guy, he's killing me right now. He's killing me. You do shit you love.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Okay,
he's blowing my mind right now.
Okay, so I come out of college like big shot prodigy, and I'm like prodigy.
Hey, tomato.
So, yeah. I've been doing this shit on the side, like in secret, like an alcoholic drink stuff and hide stuff.
Yeah.
I've been doing this my whole life. Don't wait till you're 62 years old to do this shit. It's fucking fun, man. And if you got the bug, you can't explain it. You know it. There's guys, there's posers all down the line. If you get the bug and you like get bit with this shit,
Do it.
I mean it's bad because it's like drugs or alcohol. But the good thing is you sell something at the end, so it's not like you're stuck.
It's not completely hurting your health either, It's not like you're putting it into your body.
It's not, but I mean, when I go to bed at night, I'm thinking about where I'm going in the morning. And then when I go to bed at night, I think about how awesome my day was, hopefully.
I mean, he's spot on. I mean, I can't disagree with him. Like, I'm 41, and so this is, I guess you can consider this the old dudes podcast, the old dudes podcast. But he's absolutely right. I mean, I have a job that I do 24/7 that I'm so happy about, and that I do love. Don't get me wrong, because it at the end of the day feeds my family, and what I do is exciting. But when your passion comes into play, Kevin, as he eats that pizza, Kevin is dead on. When your passion comes into play, it's like a game changer, and you really invest in that. And that's what's awesome about you, man, is because you don't stray from that. Like, I've been to several fleas with Kevin. I've been to a few things. His prices are amazing. He's honest with what he does. At the end of the day, you feed off of the passion of finding cool stuff, selling it for a reasonable price, and just loving what you do, right?
Oh, it's like cocaine.
I've never done cocaine.
Well, I never have either, but I can imagine.
But I can imagine too. I can imagine.
I get high when I buy it and when I sell it. So, yeah.
I love it, brother. I love it. That's a great PSA. So let's get into some other stuff. I want to get into something else with you. Two things. I want to do I want to do a heat check with you, and we'll do it here in a second.
Oh my God.
But first, I want to throw some words out to you that maybe some of the new age thrifters and stuff use. And I want no.
Can I tell you which ones I don't want to hear?
No, hold on. You can after the end of the day.
Right.
But I want to tell you, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask a word, and I want to see what Kevin has to say about it. So, what's the word lit mean to you?
Lit. I love lit. Lit is like drip, like heaters. I like all that. I like the guys have their own little thing. It was kind of funny at first. I hated it, but yeah, lit's all right.
What about heat? Like, he's bringing the heat.
Yeah, bringing the heat. JohnRucker.com. Rucker John at Ruckers.com. I like that guy. He brings the heat. What do you got now?
Let's see what else.
You got the
dope. That's dope.
Dope. Dope is my friends at Music City Vintage. Follow them.
Okay. Let's see what else. I can't even think what else. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at dope. Okay. So let's do a heat check real quick with you. What is your favorite band? What's your favorite musician? Rap group, whatever.
Bruce Springsteen.
I knew you were going to say that. Bruce Springsteen. He looks like a Bruce Springsteen guy. He probably listens to Bruce Springsteen Christmas album. You love it, don't you? You don't?
I don't. Wild and the Innocent. Wild and the Innocent all day long.
Yeah, he doesn't like the Christmas album. Okay, what's your favorite food?
Mexican.
Mine too.
Burritos.
Mine too, 100%. I can get on board with that. What is your favorite thing to do besides thrifting?
Selling, thrifting.
Besides that, that's thrifting. It's like, what's your favorite thing? Make out with your wife. Hang out with your wife.
I mean, thrifting is really cool.
He loves thrifting.
I'm consumed.
But okay, what's your celebrity crush?
Farrah Fawcett.
I love it. And what is your favorite movie ever?
Ever?
Yeah.
It's that one with Bruce Willis in the big tower.
Die Hard. That sucks.
Die Hard.
That movie sucks.
I love Die Hard.
Yeah, that's the worst movie.
All right.
No, it's a good movie, but
16
it's like
Candles.
there you go. What's her name? What's her name? She's 60 Candles
I'm
is
a
the best.
terrible
I will give
movie.
him 60 Candles is the best. Holding the underwear up, the panties up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is her name? Oh well, I can't fucking remember.
We'll
But
get
listen,
it in about an hour.
for sure. Listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We had a couple beers before this started. We really appreciate you all doing and watching this and hanging with us. Really, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later.
So I hope everybody enjoyed episode number 15 with my buddy Kevin of Junk Palace Vintage. If you're not following him on Instagram, it's at Junk Palace Vintage. Really simple. You know, we went on location to Mirror Twin. We had an absolute blast. We drank for about 2 to 3 hours before we even started the podcast. And Kevin was a friend of mine before we met up. But, you know, learning more about Kevin and him learning more about me, it was really cool to understand what he does and why he does it, and kind of understand some back history of how he grew up. And so a great friendship was made in the process of making this podcast. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Like I said, it went a little off the rails, but Kevin is a great guy. He's very smart, very good at what he does, and absolutely hilarious. So I have to say, this is one of the podcasts that I enjoyed doing the most. Probably because there was booze involved, but I want to say thank you to Kevin and for doing the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up here in the next few months. A lot of good guests coming to the podcast. We're going to start venturing outside of the state of Kentucky a little bit now that we've highlighted some people here locally. And if you know anybody that would be interested in coming on the podcast, or you feel like would be good to be on the podcast, make sure you send me a message, DM me on Instagram. So I hope everybody is happy and healthy and doing well, and I'll see you next week.